So Michael Bennet is a right-wing senator from the Democratic Party who I disagree with on healthcare. I disagree with on trade as well, from what I've seen of him. He's really not my kind of person for office, but he gave a speech earlier this week on gun control, and it was actually pretty effective, to my surprise. So I'll play some clips of it, and I'll talk about why it's much better than his entire career put together.
The House of Representatives has done their job. I think more than 200 days ago, they passed background checks over there, and we haven't even taken them up over here. This isn't a matter of bringing the bill up and voting on the bill. We can't even get the bill to the floor for 200 days. We haven't been able to bring the bill to the floor. Why? Because the majority leader of the United States of America says that he's only going to bring gun legislation to the floor if he knows what the president will sign. That he's not capable, as the majority leader of the United States, to put an amendment on the floor for an up or down vote. Even when that amendment has passed the House of Representatives 200 days ago, and 96% of the American people support it. 96% of the American people support it. So why can't he bring it to the floor? He says that only if the president tells him what he'll sign will he bring it to the floor. And we all know how hard it is for the president to make up his mind about anything. I can tell you this, it's not because we're too busy around here. We were in session last week for 27 hours. That's not even a French work week. That's pitiful. Pitiful. 27 hours. You know how many amendments we've considered in the 9 months that we've been here this year? 18. That's 2 amendments a month. We have passed 4 amendments in this broken place. Pitiful. Pitiful. Before he became majority leader, Mitch McConnell came down here and said that we were going to work on Fridays, that we were going to have regular order. 27-hour work week. And I can tell you this, it's not because we're considering the election protection legislation, which are bipartisan bills that senators in this chamber want to vote on to respond to the Russian attack on our democracy. It's not because we're too busy with those bills. We are doing nothing here except for confirming judges for Donald Trump. And I think I speak for my colleagues when I say I'm willing to work more than 27 hours. I'm willing to work a French work week or a U.S. work week if it means that we could actually have votes on amendments that 96% of the American people support.
Everything he said was true. Background checks were passed 20 years ago. Nothing came out of it. Republicans take NRA money that influences their votes. And that's why you'll have all these massacres and they'll just kind of like tuck their tail between their legs and say thoughts and prayers and just kind of hope for it to go away. And then it does. And then there's another one. And we get the exact same scenario playing out over and over. And they have no concern or care for that because their pockets are more appealing to them in terms of what they should be concerned about than human lives. Usually I hate it when politicians mention their children or some other person that they're related to, because I don't think it's necessary to bring people who are not on the political scene or otherwise public figures into the stuff. So for example, if I got mentioned in a Senate or House speech in whatever manner, I wouldn't be that offended because I consider myself a public figure, especially as relates to these topics. But when he mentions that his children have literally grown up in the era of post Columbine, where this was like such a big, huge shock, and oh my God, people did this, and it's still happening. It really shows the legislative failure of the U.S. Congress to really do anything. Remember, we're not just talking. Well, he was talking about background checks, but I've mentioned before that if you want to do your little good guy with gun saves, other people from bad guy with gun thing, you could have voted to increase funding for armed guards at uh, public schools or just any campus. If they were serious about it, if they really believe that philosophy. But it's just another one of those little talking points they use. Now he mentions the fact that these senators are in office, how they've passed 18 amendments just this entire Congress, and the amount of days that they're not doing anything. And it's like, this has been my point. See, people, when they don't want to run for office, they always think it's so hard, and it's usually those who are talented who are able to get in there. If I were to run for Senate or for the House and I lost, it wouldn't be because I was not as sophisticated or not as knowledgeable as the person who's currently in there. Because of two things: low name recognition and money. We're talking about Senate races that have cost millions of dollars in my state of California. House seats, we have to get 100,000 votes, sometimes as much or if not less for Senate seats in some states. And that stuff really helps to create this narrative that these are such talented people that have these like mythical powers and are persona non grata in terms of their overall reach or whatever. And it's not the case. Whether you just barely follow this stuff at all, if you spend a year getting briefed on major issues and taking positions on them, you would ideologically be no more qualified than any of these people who currently are there are. The only difference would be they are more well known, and they have more money. They have these donors, and he even mentions it about the NRA taking names. And it's so disturbing because if we can get what, a fourth of the Republican senators to vote for this stuff, not even a quarter of their caucus, because there's like over 50 of them, you would actually see this get changed. You would see some new bill come to law, something that's not just thoughts and prayers. But we're going to keep having these mass shootings. There's probably going to be another one either next week or the week after that. And we'll be right back where we started. And I don't say it with a boastful harper because I'm some great, wonderful prognosticator. It's because literally every time we have one of these, it's the same exact story. It almost feels like I'm playing some video game and I'm stuck on the same level where it's like this is the mass shooting level, and then the responses start pouring out, and it's literally people just saying the exact same thing because it's the same level being played over and over again. There's like this one boss I can't defeat, and like the boss is getting some actual bill to come and be signed to see if there's like a higher chance of this not happening again. That's exactly what the Senate is. It's just this gridlocked, crappy institution that's a joke that doesn't pass anything, and pretty much the only thing that happens is people saying a bunch of stuff to try and make themselves feel superior to regular people. They get up there with these little prancy speeches. Well, I personally am opposed to gun legislation because you look at the fact that there were multiple mass shootings and the people were actually, getting shot anyway. I don't really see how putting laws will affect what is done by people. Never mind the fact that we have laws for pretty much everything else. In this one case, if you put laws, there won't actually be a effect. No, they're all just sitting there trying to make you be intimidated by the way they speak about things. They're not impressive. So in closing, Bennet is a right. And by the way, just as because I had planned on recording this earlier in the week to give him props for doing something I like. Literally, just as I was about to, the day after he gave this speech, he went on Morning Joe and crapped all over single payer, and I was reminded of why I had like this reluctant embrace of this speech. It's like that's the problem with like a lot of these people that are centrists. They'll occasionally say that one thing. I'm like, yeah, you got it, and then the exact next thing they say about any other topic, I'm just, it's like that's how it was with Rand Paul, where he was voting against all the wars, and I was so happy. It's like, yeah, Rand, this is so great. And then he goes on TV talking about we've over criminalized campaign finance laws. And just, but yeah, it's a good speech. I'm gonna leave a link to it in the description. Um, a great speech from a crappy senator that's worth a listen to.